when he walked out on stage, and this belt, he had his belt around his waist, and when it slid down his belly, and he tried to catch it down on his skinny legs, it was downhill after that.
Woo.
Adrian Street was way ahead of himself, and I've even heard Adrian do an interview about Charles Dodge, who was famous for shooting. But he said when Charles Dodge came to William, he couldn't beat nobody over there. And I've got a shooting story, if you don't mind me sharing this with you.
Shoot.
Going back to Salisbury, there was a shooter there by the name of John Foley. Not many people talked about him, but he was from England. Well, when I was in Salisbury, I was about 240 pounds as a hill, pretty stuffy guy. So we was in a hotel room one night, and John Foley said, try me, baby bull. They told me the baby bull. Try me and see if you can see what you got. Well, I didn't try that. He was on all fours. I just dove on him, 250 pounds. John went down and purple burned the whole side of his face.
Ooh.
Not because I hooked him or stretched him, but because my weight forced him down and he'd been drinking. Well, the next day they got in the van and everybody was ribbing him that Bobby Fulton had stretched the great John Foley, and I laughed and laughed about that and everything. But you know, back in the old days, guys would stretch people, especially the young guys, and you know, and it was part of the initiation.
Bobby, why don't we get to what you're obviously most famous for? Tell us about the origins of the Fantastics and how did you and Tommy Rogers come about?
Well, what happened was, as I told you before, Terry Taylor and I had been sent to Atlanta during the short run of that territory, and then after that we came back to Memphis, and then I went to San Antonio. And when I went to San Antonio, Luke Williams gave me my first break. When I met Joe Blanchard, he told me, he said, when I meet a wrestler, either I see little money, big money, or no money. And I didn't quite understand what he said until he paid me my first night. But what happened, I'd been wrestling for about 6 or 7 months in San Antonio. Tommy had been wrestling in Atlanta. Well, Jarrett had said, I want the Rock and Roll Express back. They had been working with the Midnight Express in Louisiana. They had popped that territory. And Jarrett said, I want the Rock and Roll back in Memphis for 6 months. Well, I knew Bill Dundee, of course, and I had met Tommy Rogers. And Bill Dundee and Bill Watts put together the Fantastics to come in to take the place for 6 months as the Rock and Roll Express.
Mm.
And when we got there, when we reached Houston, all these fans at the beginning had things up about bring back the rock and roll, bring back the rock and roll. But as time went on, there was less signs about the rock and roll and signs more about the Fantastics. There was something magical about Tommy Rogers and I, which clicked in the ring. Tommy was phenomenal in the ring, and as a tag team, we got over like Rover. And you know, I had one of the WWE writers the other day, NXT, messaged me, and he sent me a match from the Caribbean where the Rock and Roll was heels against us. And he said, you know, you guys receive a lot of flack a lot of times from fans about being after the Rock and Roll Express. And you guys being rock and roll people can understand this analogy. But there was the Beatles, and then there was the Rolling Stones.
Right. Right.
And he said there's never no comparison to the Rolling Stones trying to take the Beatles' place. We never tried to take the rock and roll's place. We tried to make our footprint in the territories we worked in. And when we left Mid-South the first time, we went to world class. And as a matter of fact, we got so over in world class that the booker, Jim Mantell, told Fritz, said, you guys can send your son, Kevin and Terry, somewhere else for a while. And Johnny Mantell can document this because they said the Fantastics have got over so strong that if we could give your sons a rest in here for a while and they would be fresh, you know. But even when Tommy was with Kevin Von Erich over in Hawaii on Kevin's Island, he told Tommy, we throw away so much stuff. You guys got lots more fan mail than us, and I know that might be hard for the public to believe. But he said, we threw it away and never let you know the impact. It was just business, wow. Tommy, and I'm sorry we've done that.
Wow.
But the Von Erich boys are some of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. And guys, I'm telling you, Kevin, Terry, Mike, Chris, I met David one time in St. Louis, but I never got to know him like I did know the other sons. And they were the best guys you would ever want to meet in your life. The people say a lot of things about them, but I love the Von Erich boys.
I
Wow.
do too.
Yep.
Did you, speaking about the Von Erichs, did you know that Kerry was having the issues, or the boys were having as many drug issues as they were, has been reported?
Well, I was there tonight, the very night that Terry wrestled Ric Flair on live television, and it was supposed to be a 60-minute draw. And Terry, we were in some horse stalls in the back, and they had a hard time getting Terry out to go to the ring. And they finally had the match, and it didn't last 60 minutes. I don't even remember what happened, but I was there. But I do know that Ric Flair brought the belt back and threw it at Ken Mantell and said, Ken, you wrestle him the rest of the week. Well, the Von Erichs were so over in the territory at the time, and I mean, that night we wrestled Buddy Landell and Charlie Chudnitsky. And that's where I believe Ric Flair really found a soft spot for Buddy Landell, because we tore the house down. It was sold out that night, I mean, in our match. But the next day in the paper, they said what was wrong with Terry was he had 105-degree temperature and he was upset. And this is what the paper reported, that his dog Bonzo had died and he was the only dog to ever master the iron claw. And that's why Terry wasn't in his right mind that night.
You build this team with Tommy Rogers on June
Right.
15th, June 1st, 2015. He passes away.
Yes.
What were your feelings at that moment when I don't know when you actually found out, but what were your feelings when you find out the passing of your longtime tag team partner?
Well, I believe I was probably not one of the first, but close to the first to find out. Tommy had lived in Hawaii, and me and him talked all the time. And all of a sudden, I was contacted about his passing. Now, I don't know if you guys really know how he died. Do you know?
No.
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 Well, actually, what happened to him, Dave Meltzer, I got so mad at him because he reported that he hung himself or committed suicide, which is not true.
Typical Meltzer.
What
I'm
happened
sorry.
was,
Typical Meltzer.
huh?
Typical Meltzer. I had to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm just saying that, and I went nuts when he said that. And what happened was, Tommy had ate a little Debbie cake, and he regurgitated on it in his sleep, and he choked to death on that. That's how he died. They said he opened his eyes up for a second in the emergency squad, but then he shut his eyes soon after. He was dead on arrival. He was dead. He was dead because he had the oxygen had been shut off to his brain, and they said if he would have lived, perhaps he would have been brain dead. And me knowing Tommy Rogers and being the athlete that he was, that guy was an athlete. He was. I've always said this. I teamed up with two of the greatest dropkick guys in the business. One Tommy Rogers and another my brother George Hines Jackie Fulton. Both of them could throw drop kicks that were unbelievable. But it hurt me when Tommy died. I had been going through some stuff myself with my eye and everything. And of course, this was 2015, but it really hurt me, guys. I mean, hey, when you've been partners since 1983 or 82, up until that time, it's like a marriage. We knew each other inside and out. And it really hurt me. It devastated me, especially reading some of the stuff that people had said concerning Tommy and everything. It really bothered me.
Not to switch gears, but if I can, quick. You had some great matches back in the day with the sheep herders, who, of course, went on to become the Bushwhackers. To you, being a great traditional wrestler from the territory days, when they go to Vince and become the Bushwhackers, are they jumping the shark? Were you like, oh no, they just took this into cartoon character level, or was it cool with you?
No. Luke and Butch are very smart guys.
There you go.
I don't know if you remember the very first Trousers Cup or not, but we met them for the first time. Mm-hmm. And that was when wrestlers came from all over the world and all the territories, and everybody has said that the Sheep Herders and Fantastic match stole the show of the very first Trousers Cup. When we had a run in Mid-South with 37 straight barbed wire matches, and later on, they really made us because we were the goody two-shoe guys, the high flyers. But when they brought us down to the ground and the blood flew and the cage fights and the barbed wire cage game, when we went to the NWA, we were going to, after the Midnight Express, we were going to start a program just like Mid-South. But Luke and them didn't feel like they were being treated right. Vince gave them an opportunity to go to New York, where he changed Dory Funk in the House, Terry Taylor into the Red Rooster,
Good boy.
Dusty Rhodes into the
polka dot.
The polka dotted man.
But wait a minute,
why not change?
Bobby, but let's be fair here. He changed Kurt Hennig into Mr. Perfect.
That's true.
Mean Mark Callis into The Undertaker.
That's very true.
Right?
Yes.
So,
That's true.
Yes.
We got some wins and losses here.
Yeah, I guess we do.
Yes.
Do.
You know, I wrestled Mark Callis in one of his first matches in Fort Worth. When he first broke in the business. We wrestled him. He was a Punisher.
What was your impression?
And was a nice guy. And even when my son met him just a couple of years ago in L.A., my son went to meet him, and he said, you don't have to tell me who you are. You're Dylan Hines, Mark Callis said. Wow. He said, I'm going to tell you something. Your dad is one of the nicest guys in the wrestling business. Said he was so nice to me when he didn't have to be, when he was on top. And I have nothing but respect for The Undertaker.
Wow.
And what you're right, we do have some wins with Vince, and we can't forget it. But I'm not saying it was a loss of the sheepherders becoming the bushwhackers,
Right.
because it extended their careers
Sure did.
even longer.
Yes.
And Luke today, at near 80 years old, is still getting into the ring
Yep.
and
Yep.
still doing his thing.
It's crazy,
More
but yes.
power to them.
Yep. What did you think of Ric Flair, by the way, wrestling recently at the age of 73? Did you see the match and what?
No, I thought it was horrible.
Yeah, me too. I just wanted to
I
get your
thought it
take,
was
though.
bad. I knew when he walked out on stage, and this belt, he had his belt around his waist, and when it slid down his belly, and he tried to catch it down on his skinny legs, it was downhill after that.
Woo. Yep.
I knew what happened. He walked out. If he had carried the belt, see what he did was, I love Ric Flair. Do I think he is, once you've seen his match, you've seen them all? Yes. Do I think that's troubling? To a certain extent. But it became to be a routine that the fans expected. And why Ric Flair did that was he was wrestling so many guys that didn't know how to wrestle. So he built matches around them, but he made a career out of it. But that was horrible. I think that match hurt Rick Steamboat's match, to be honest with you guys.
Really?
The one he had this past weekend.
Really?
I think because the people seeing the Ric Flair thing was worried that the Rick Steamboat thing would be another Ric Flair thing.
Right.
It sure wasn't a feather in Rick's cap.
Right.
By no means.
All right, so Bobby, I'm going to put you under the gun here. You ready? I want you to rank these tag teams.
Whoa.
In order, 5 being the least to 1 being the best.
5? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 5. The Rockers.
All right.
The Rockers.
Okay.
The Rock and Roll Express. The High Flyers. The Fantastics. And the Fabulous Ones.
Right.
Rank them. Who...
I'm getting ready to tell you guys this, and you may not understand it or not, but Jim Cornette will tell you, and so many others, not against Richard or Robert, but when it came to in the ring wrestling, we were really one of the top teams of our era. In-ring wrestling, I'm talking about in-ring having great matches consistently with different opponents. And I'm talking about not just with one set. We had great matches with Victory and Tatum, great matches with the Lone Riders, great programs with the Midnight and all that. 1 through 5. Do I want to give it my opinion or the fans' opinion?
Your opinion.
Your opinion.
My opinion. Which set of rockers? The AWA or the later the WWF?
I'll give you the AWA Rockers.
Good question, too. AWA.
The which one's AWA?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that makes a difference to me.
Sure does. It does.
I will tell you this. Shawn Michaels seen me and my son not long ago, and he said what the Undertaker said. Said, your dad was so nice to me in Kansas City when he didn't have to be, but that's just what I want to do. Guys, you really put me on the spot, didn't you?
Yeah.
Really
Welcome to Monty and the Pharaoh.
All right.
Give it to us, Bobby. Give
All
it to
right.
us.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, okay?
Okay. Pitchfork in
You
hand.
gave me the High Flyers would be number 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Only because, and nothing against Ray Gagne, only because they wrestled in that territory and didn't do much outside of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Fair
sure.
enough?
Yeah,
Fair enough.
sure. And Greg Gagne had tennis legs. Don't forget that.
Yes, but listen, it was a different time and era when they were out there,
Sure.
and, suplexes was finishes,
Absolutely.
Then I'll go with, the High Flyers, right?
Yep.
Are we talking about now? Let me ask you this: are we talking about in-ring ability, drawing ability, as a team, the whole package?
Entire package.
Yeah, let's go with the entire
package.
That's
Yeah,
what
let's
I
go
was
with that.
getting ready to say because that makes a difference. And we're talking about regional against national.
How about just
Because the
overall
Fabulous
impact?
Ones was one of the hottest tag teams in the business in the Memphis area. I mean, it was like the Beatles. And then the rock and roll came after them. And then, so I got one. You gave me five, right?
Yeah, you
Yes,
got
sir.
four
I
to
got
go.
number 4 is Ray Johnson and Jim Brunzell, the High Flyers.
Okay.
That's number 5. Number
Right.
4 would be the AWA Rockers.
Okay. Okay.
Number 3 would be the Fabulous Ones because they were more of a regional, although they made a great, tremendous impact on them.
Yep.
That would be number 3.
Okay.
Number 2 would be the Fantastics.
Nice.
Number
Nice.
1 would be the Rock and Roll Express. If you're talking about the impact, drawing, in ring, everything still going, the Rock and Roll Express.
We first made contact off a previous show that you were unhappy with, which I understand, but you called me like a man and told me, hey, look, I don't appreciate it, and take down the video, which we did.
Absolutely.
And,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
well, again, thank you for calling me up like a man and explaining to me. And I just want to tell you, it's an honor to have you on our show, and we can't thank you enough for doing this. And say hello to your son, and just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I say something real fast?
Sure can.
I want to apologize if there's been any problems on my end as far as this interview, because I am working on a cell phone. These guys have jumped leaps and bounds to help me so that I could be on here. And I'm not a professional cameraman by no means. I want to say hello to all the wrestling fans out there. You all mean so much to me because I am one of you. Money and Pharaoh, I hope the best for the future of wrestling. I like the directions that the WWE is going in. I like the idea that the NWA, listen, it's like an old Timex. You can take a licking, but it's going to keep right on ticking. I expect some big things in 2023 with the National Wrestling Alliance. Billy Corgan's a big fan, and he really wants to establish wrestling. I think one thing that's missing, gentlemen, is the emotional attachment to the wrestlers from the fans. And I think once that is established again, then it will go places. What do you think on that?
Well, I'll give you my opinion. I think in order for wrestling to get better in 2023, one of the organizations need to sign Monty Nefaro to do their announcing and their play-by-play.
Yes, sir.
Don't you think we should be on NWA and doing the play-by-play? What do you think?
I like that. I like that idea. And you know what? Let's throw my name in the hat.
Why not?
I wanna be a big part of it too, guys. Listen,
There you go.
the sky's the limit on this business. And also, I want to mention about my son. I don't know if you know this or not, but my son Dylan has dabbled in wrestling and does a lot of promoting. But my younger son Jaron is now starting his career. He's going to have his first match December the 10th, and I believe he's going to face franchise Shane Douglas. We're going to bill him as the Fantastic One, Jaron Fulton. Guys, he's 6'2". He looks just like I did in my young 20s, and he's going to be phenomenal. His uncle Jackie, George Hines, has taught him to do drop kicks. He's had some awesome training, at our training camp in North Carolina, and which soon I'm going to be opening one up in Ohio. But guys, I still have the passion. I've got my sons involved in the wrestling business, Monty and Pharaoh. Let's work on seeing what you can do to help these organizations prosper in the future. God bless you guys. Thank you for being men of men. I've enjoyed watching your show in the past. So many fond memories. But fellas, I'm going to tell you, like I'm telling the rest of the world, concerning my son Jerem Fulton starting, the best is yet to come for all of us. God bless you all. Thank you all for letting me be a part of the prestige, the honor, and the glory of Monty and the Pharaoh Show. Thank you, guys.